Hello guys, I'm going to go ahead and go through the deities of AhResh. I'm going to go ahead and go and pronounce their name, go to their page, and kind of tell you kind of what their deal is and their domain and all of those things. So starting with Baziel herself. Baziel Asteri, and I even have pronunciation after. So it's Baziel Ashteri. Baziel Ashteri. She is the queen of stars and goddess of light and wisdom. She favors the courageous and inspires her followers to follow the path of the light, which leads to Amanim, and Yamatik. She is also associated with law and justice. The elves esteem her above all other deities. She is simply known as Baziel. Her alignment is lawful good. Her domains are light and knowledge, and her symbol is an 8-pointed star. Let's see. I'll just go over these two. No, we'll continue with deities. I'm not going to get sidetracked. Apologies. All right. Next up is Elias. Elias is the goddess of grief and mercy. Her alignment is neutral good, and she is associated with the life domain. So that's Elias. Next up is Fatheno. Fatheno. He is the god of the harvest. He is the patron of farmers. His alignment is neutral good, and his domain is nature and life. Fatheno. Okay. Next, we have Heas Perion. Heas Perion, also known as Napel. Heas Perion was once known as the god of light and the sun. He is now Napel, the god of affliction, deception, corruption, and slaughter. He was corrupted by his desire to wield the power of the Pharos. Consumed by his lust, he stole the Pharos, which darkened the Toiko and sent Ufantes, also known as the Weaver, into a deep sleep. He is currently in rebellion and an enemy to the power of good. He has corrupted various Fae creatures to also forsake the power of good and to serve him. In the world of AhResh, he is the source of all evil. Well, not all evil. We know that Earth Brother has sent the great orcs, the trolls, and the ogres, which are the original chaotic evil, actually, power in the world. He is lawful evil, and his domains are trickery and death. That is Heas Perion, or what we would call Napel. Next up is Heshrahan. Heshrahan, I call her Heshrahan. It's really up to you. It's Heshrahan, is the goddess of the grave and underworld. Her alignment is neutral evil, and her domain is death and grave. She's the goddess of the grave and the underworld. You can think of her in Norse mythology as death, or hell, actually, hell. There is no other domain keeper of the grave and the underworld in AhResh. So she is the god or the goddess of the underworld, and one of your enemies right now. Okay, the god Hexphos. Hexphos. He is the god of order and civilization. He is the opposite of his sister Tuela. Okay, so there are twin gods in AhResh, Hexphos and Tuela. Hexphos is the god of order and civilization. His alignment is lawful good, and his domain is knowledge. He can be seen as one of the chief principal male deities. Baziel Ashteri is the chief principal female deity. He is the chief principal male deity. Hexphos. Okay, next up is Hule. Hule. Hule is a goddess of forests and nature. Her daughter is Kate, goddess of the hunt, who provides her with an honor guard of maidens. Her alignment is chaotic good, and her domains are nature and life. So Hule, goddess of the forest and nature, a wife of free Manduas and queen of Shiramar. Her daughter is Kate, goddess of the hunt, who provides her with an honor guard of maidens. Okay, So Hule can be considered, because of the goddess of the force and nature, more like Pan, more like, so she is the goddess of nature, the force of nature, which would be maybe the archfey. So she would be nature herself. Not really nature herself. That's not really how the deities work here, but she is kind of along those lines, something like Pan. Okay. Let's see. Calcus. Calcus is the god of crafts, metal, and he's the patron of all smiths. He's the creator of the dwarves, whom the dwarves worship. His alignment is neutral good, and his domain is knowledge. Kate. Kate is the goddess of the hunt. She and her maidens live in the deep forests on Dusmon, where they hunt and protect the forest from interlopers. She gives her best hunters to her mother Hule as an honor guard. Her alignment is chaotic good. Her domain is nature and war. So you guys remember the female guards, the honor guard around Hule when you went to visit her. These are her. She can be seen as the huntress in the Greek mythology. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Kate. The next is Liamne. Liamne. Liamne is the god of seas, lakes, and wind. His alignment is chaotic good, and his domain is nature. He's the equivalent to the Norse god Njord. Njord. Maybe that name sounds familiar. Okay, next up is Neates. Neates. Neates is the goddess of spring, youth, renewal, love, and fertility. Kind of that catch-all, like Aphrodite type thing. Or I was going to say Artemis, but mainly Aphrodite. Alignment, chaotic good. Domain, life and light. She would also be like the Norse goddess of Frey. Excuse me, Freya. Frey's the guy. Freya. So that's Neates. Okay, next up is Onar. 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 You can just say Onar. You don't have to roll the R. Even I have problems with it. Onar is the god of dreams, mischief, and tricks. The god of dreams, mischief, and tricks. He's the patron of thieves. His alignment is chaotic neutral, and his domain is trickery. Okay, and the next god up is Polemos. Polemos. He is the god of valor, war, and victory. His alignment is neutral good. His domain is war and knowledge. He would be the equivalent of Tyr in the Norse gods. Tyr. You can look him up. Okay, next up. Psukas. Psukas. Or I say in the pronunciation Pasukas, but it just means the P is pronounced. Psukas is the goddess of life, healing, and medicine. Her domain is life domain, and she would be considered lawful good. So life domain clerics, definitely Psukas, and that's the Greek word for soul. So yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Skira. Skira. He is the god of silence, purification, and vengeance. He's often honored by the warriors, or by warriors in general before battle, where they purify themselves and hope to make it out of battle. His alignment is chaotic good. His domain is war and light. So Skira. Next up is Skotas. Skotas. That's the Greek word for darkness. So Skotas is the lord of darkness, death, winter, and dark magic. He started out by just being the god of winter, but slowly his interest turned more sinister. After studying the remains of ogres and trolls, he began to learn dark crafts to make creations of his own. Eventually, by using foul craft and dark magic upon the corpses of elves and fey creatures, he created the hobgoblins. He sought to use them to challenge Heshrahan for control of the underworld. Instead, they decided to choose their own path and created an intricate society for themselves. Later, he joined with Napel and helped him create Oruks and Knolls to bolster the Great Fell army. His alignment is chaotic evil. His domain is death and knowledge, but as you can see, he's not the god of death. The god of death or the goddess of death. If you're going for that, you can just be God. You don't have to say god or goddess, but the god of death is Hel, which is Heshrahan, which now you guys are getting a clue that you're fighting Pluto or somebody. Okay. You can listen up now, Sydney. Symphonia. Symphonia is the goddess of poetry, music, and dance, the patron of bards. Her alignment is neutral good. And, her domain is light and life. So Symphonia, the goddess of poetry, music, and dance. Getting close to the end, guys. All right, next up is Tuela. Tuela. Most of the time when dealing with ancient names in AhResh, the TH is not going to be pronounced as like thin. It's not going to be like that. It can be more of a TH sound, like Tuela. So you're pretty much pronouncing the T and the H together. It can be done in a light way, like in there is this Norse letter that looks like a D with a T over it. It's kind of like a light TH. It's like Othin. It can sound like a D, like Othin. We get Odin from that, but his name is really Othin. This, when you see things like this, kind of err on the side of the TH being pronounced together. Tuela. She is the goddess of chaos, tempest, storms, and rivers. Her brother is Hexphos, and the opposite of her in every way. She is chaotic evil. Her domain is tempest and trickery. Okay, tempest and trickery. Tuela. Let's go next guy. Traco. He's the god of travel, luck, and commerce. Traco. His alignment is chaotic good, and his domain is trickery. Most of these domains can be blamed on the player's handbook that I just kind of went to an equivalent god and found. I don't know why the god of commerce would be trickery, but hey, you know what? At some point, I can't create everything from scratch, right? All right, Pythonas. Pythonas is the goddess of magic, prophecy, and luck. She is the patron of the arcane. Her alignment is neutral. Her domain is arcane and knowledge. So this would be the goddess of magic. Pythonas, it comes from the actual Greek word of Pythia, which is what the Oracle of Delphi was called, the Pythia. Okay, so Pythonas, goddess of magic. Getting close to the end. Next up is Valen, the Valen. These are the gods appointed by the Amanim. Later, they were the gods and the demigods that remained loyal to the power of good and remained servants of the Amanim according to the will of Yamatik. Okay, remember Yamatik is the all creator, Yamatik. And then you have Amanim, which are the watchers. And then you have Malak, which are pretty much guardian angels or angels. All three of those are non-killable entities, ancient non-killable entities. But the Valen itself, anytime you hear talk of the Valen, ancient times would be just considered those are just gods. But after Napel, the Valen are considered the gods that embrace the power of good. After Napel, we also have gods that embraced him, and we have the Pipton. It's a Greek word for fallen. Okay, Pipton. These are gods and demigods who have forsaken the power of good and embraced the power and lives of Peran Nepal. So Peran, Chaos Peran, now called Nepal, they embrace him. So they're the bad guys, the Pipton. So those are the deities and kind of how to pronounce them. If you actually go onto World Anvil itself, you'll see that when you click on the god name, I actually put in parentheses kind of how to say it. So I do have a little bit of a pronunciation guide there. So those are the deities of AhResh.